You guys want to say hi to my dogs?
Yes, please.
Here's Marlo.
EJ says hi back.
Hi, EJ. Hi,
Hi.
All right, folks, I think let's go ahead and get started. Happy April Town Hall, everybody. We are making our way through springtime. It's sunny here in Chicago today, so us Chicagoans are very happy and extra friendly because we're finally crawling out of the cave of despair of winter. So as always, we have a jam-packed agenda. Oh, I forgot, if I have not met you before, my name is Maggie. I'm the Community Product Manager for DataHub. Probably seen me in Slack. I love hearing from each and every single one of you. Love to know how things are going, how we can help you out, how we can partner up. So if we haven't chatted, please reach out. I'm always excited to hear what's going on in the metadata world. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get started for the day. All right. So off we go. As always, we'll do our community and roadmap updates and review some recent releases. We're going to go over a DataHub 201 session, so getting more familiar with our DataHub APIs. Chris is going to walk us through some upcoming changes to our search and browse experiences. Harshal is going to come in with some really exciting and cool ways to integrate DataHub with GitHub and all of the hubs everywhere, but really syncing changes between systems and really introducing DataHub into the GitHub workflow. Then Chris is also going to come back with Shirshanka, give us a demo of some upcoming support for DataHub products and DataHub, or sorry, excuse me, data products and DataHub. And then Harshal's going to come on back and talk through some of the recent changes, whoopsies, to our doc site. So digging in, as of this morning, we have 7,223 people in our community, which is insane. We have passed 7,000 very rapidly. I think we had just shy of 500 people join in the past month or so, which is by far our fastest growing month ever. We still continue to see over 1,000 weekly active users in Slack. So again, it's always a vibrant, very active community. All hours of the day, there's always a conversation going on. Just shy of just over 6,800 messages sent and 727 emojis. If I'm being honest, our emoji game, we could get some more emojis going in there, but that's just me. We always like to talk about our support volume in the community to give folks a sense of how things are kind of going. So looking at just the GitHub side of things, so looking at our PR throughput over the past few weeks, we have seen a slight decrease in the number of PRs that have opened, but we're still seeing consistently a ton of really great contributions coming in from community members. And we're doing a pretty good job of staying on top of those PRs and trying to get those reviewed and move through as rapidly as possible. Along with that, in our Slack community, we continue to see, a huge volume of folks coming in, looking for troubleshooting support, looking for direction, or just a helping hand. And I like to remind folks that, if you're able to, we really genuinely very much appreciate folks stepping up and helping one another out. It frees up a lot of bandwidth for us so that we can focus on shipping features or shipping code, and also moving through a review of community contributions as well. So if you are able to, we always appreciate folks stepping up and helping one another out. We're going to be kicking off some new types of workshops within the community. So the first one is going to be a little bit more of an in-depth session of how to roll out DataHub to your organization. We had a session on this in a recent town hall, but we had to kind of fly through it. So we want to make sure that folks are able to kind of like join in or join that conversation, have much more of an interactive conversation around it. But the idea is to, help you really think through what the next steps are now that you have DataHub up and running. How do you actually get people using it? So this will be led by Paul on the DevRel team. Highly recommend checking this out. There's a link down there. You can also scan the QR code if that is helpful for you. And if you are in our data, if you're in DataHub Slack, Paul also recently posted the information about this in announcements. So more to come with sessions like this. again, we're just like excited to find ways to have more interactive sessions with folks and get you all up and running and successful with DataHub. This is my absolute favorite part of Town Hall every single month. This community that we have is just like, is genuinely, it blows my mind every month, like how engaging and how supportive everybody is. And I just love giving folks the praise and attention that they deserve. If you haven't already checked it out, Ada from, she works over at Notion. She wrote a blog post on the DataHub community blog about how to automate propagating metadata, specifically with DBT. She also open sourced all of that work. So you can not only learn how she did it and what it does, or learn how she built it and what it does, but you can also access the code and get that up and running within your instance as well. If you are interested in contributing to the blog, we are always looking for ways to highlight things, problems that you're solving with DataHub, ways that you've customized it within your organization, how you've rolled it out. Really anything DataHub related, we'd love to highlight your stories. So if that's something that you would like to do, we'll partner closely with you. Our goal is to help you tell a really great and exciting story, and getting the word out there. So if that is something that you are interested in doing, please head on over to the Contribute DataHub blog Slack channel, and Hyejin on my team is your point of contact there, and we will get you moving. As I mentioned, supporting the community is really just an outstanding way to make sure that we continue to grow and scale as all these wonderful people come in. We have an outstanding set of humans that go above and beyond, specifically in kind of like jumping in to answer questions in every direction. So massive shout out to all of these fantastic and wonderful humans. We genuinely could not do it without you guys. Really, really, really appreciate you. All right, let's talk DataHub roadmap. Oh man, I ruined the surprise of the lovely animations. There we go. So this is just an update on our Q1, Q2 roadmap. We have, as you've probably seen in Slack, we've been sending out some more surveys around kind of understanding the search and discovery experience. A lot of that feedback is really what we're incorporating into the redesign or rethinking of the search and browse experience, which Chris is going to give us a great demo of today. On the ingestion side of things, we're in the early stages of partnering with a Fivetran team to build out a Fivetran and DataHub connector. We also know that earned casing continues to be a point of friction during ingestion. So we have a recommendation put together internally and just some like initial designs of how we want to approach this. So we're making some incremental progress there. And then in terms of error reporting, we want to make sure that when ingestion fails, you have clear line of sight into what's going on. So we're making incremental progress as we go, but just wanted to call out that is still in flight. On the developer side of things, Shirshanka talked through this last town hall. We still have a PR open for term and tag propagation as a DataHub action. So that way, if you are applying a tag or term and we are, you can basically like leverage the lineage graph on the back end to propagate that information across entities. So kind of like a one and done there for Snowflake data sets in particular. In terms of search relevance, we merged in the majority of the improvements that we were targeting for Q1. We will have some updates coming up soon around ways to kind of rethink search ranking. I don't want to give any spoilers there, but we will have some updates in the coming weeks. And then in terms of top level entities, we have a PR open for getting schema merged in schema supported as a top level entity. And then we are still working through some complications of removing the schema registry as a hard requirement of the project. So this is a combination of Q1 and Q2 things. I'm working closely with Shirshanka to finalize some of the other initiatives that we have coming up in Q2. So keep an eye out. I'll be sure to post in Slack and also on our roadmap page. So, always keep this one in mind. This is our public facing roadmap. So more to come there in the coming weeks. Shirshanka, before I do that, we have a couple of repos that we monitor for contributions to the DataHub project. Of course, there's just the main DataHub project itself, but then we also have the DataHub Helm repo. So in April, we merged 186 PRs, which is lower than March, where we had 285. But my goodness, how in the world did we ship 285 PRs in March? That is just a mind-boggling number. I think when I first started here, we were like eking out maybe 60 or 70 PRs a month and feeling pretty good about that. And so it's just like the throughput on this project is mind-boggling to me. We had 7 first-time contributors, so shout out to those folks. And then 27 folks were contributing for or pushing in some repeat contributions. So again, this is truly like a community-driven project. The volume of activity here is just outstanding, and I really genuinely appreciate everyone who goes above and beyond to kind of keep things moving forward with us. We released version 0.10.2, I believe is a week and a half ago. And we are getting ready to cut a release for 0.10.3. So some of the contributions in here are going to be in the 10.3 release, but yeah, more to come there. Shirshanka, I will hand it over to you to highlight what we shipped in 10.2 and some of what's to come in 10.3.
All right. As Maggie has been saying, a lot of stuff got done on the user experience side. I don't know if you've seen this, but we've got a really cool autocomplete capability now. When you start typing in your search query, there's a handy set of automatic filters that pop in right below. And Chris is very happy about how that turned out. Chris and Brittany both are. And we'll follow up with that with search filters and other things that we're going to show today. So we're really excited about kind of that first drop of the user experience uplift being out in the community. We're looking for feedback. Let us know how that, what your users are telling you. Do they love it? What do they want us to improve? Always open to feedback there. A lot of new ingestion guides got shipped for quick starts. So, it should be much easier now for you to know how to ingest Tableau, Redshift, and Power BI. And this is a very inside thing. Like, we're now also showing the test results that are not failing. Small bug, but a common complaint. And on Power BI, we made a bunch of improvements to UI-based ingestion. Tons of improvement on the developer experience side. As you can see, the DevRel team has been kicking ass. We've got lots of new docs for updating users and groups all around. We have support for inlining code snippets. Harshal is going to talk about some of the big improvements we've done on docs and doc generation itself. A few important things on the SDK side. We now support patching for custom properties. It was a top requested feature, I would say. And so you can now have multiple pipelines writing to the custom property bag and making edits to it without stepping on each other's toes. Long list of improvements. The one that we are probably very excited about is Quick Start has gotten much more stable. We're seeing it in our metrics on our side as well. So hopefully you're no longer waiting, for a really long time for your Quick Start to get up. So those are user experience and developer experience. Specific improvements to connectors, lots of them. Redshift in particular, we're very excited about. Still almost there. We've combined usage and metadata extraction in one connector. This was following through on the promise of doing this for our big three: Snowflake, BigQuery, and now Redshift. We're still working through some lineage challenges, but pretty close there. I think Redshift is almost ready to get used in terms of that combined connector. Snowflake, Tableau, Unity Catalog, a lot of improvements. We are now extracting owners from the Unity Catalog, and a bunch of improvements coming in the next release as well around usage extraction. And small updates to Postgres and Power BI that should be impactful for the community. And that's it.
All righty. Thank you much, sir. So we are going to move over to DataHub 201, working through our, sorry, I am trying to multitask and talk at the same time. It's a bad idea. We're gonna go through a DataHub 201, kind of digging into some of our APIs. Hyejin from our DevRel team pre-recorded this. She's based out of South Korea, so I hope she is peacefully sleeping right now and not thinking about town hall. So let me share my screen and we will get this going. All right. And let me know if y'all can hear.
Hey, I'm Yoon from
You can hear?
Acryl Data.
Perfect.
I'm here to walk you through DataHub API 201. And excuse me for being a cat. I look like a mess now, so thank you for understanding. What we'll cover in this session is a quick walkthrough on 3 different ways for manipulating metadata via Python SDK, and a live demo of CRUD on dataset. Okay. A quick recap, you can check all the API and SDK guides under API section on our docs. If you're unsure of which guide is located where, you can always check this table. Okay. So there are 3 ways of using Python SDK when manipulating metadata. The one way is MCP wrapper, which you'll be most familiar with. MCP, by definition, is one of the Kafka events that DataHub makes for metadata operation. It represents a request to change to a specific aspect on metadata graph. Each MCP provides a new value for a given aspect. So it allows pretty much all the manipulation on any metadata. And an example of adding honor to a data set through MCP would look something like this. So first you define DataHub graph and the target URN and the aspect you want to modify. And then you have made a MCP event to propose the change. Okay, the second way is DataHub.cli. It allows you to run DataHub CLI commands from the Python SDK. This is quite straightforward and simple, but it is definitely limited to certain functions. An example of deleting an entity through DataHub.cli would look like this. So you define DataHub REST emitter, and then the target URN. And you can just directly run delete CLI method to delete the entity. Okay, last but not least, we have execute GraphQL method in DataHub Graph. This allows you to run raw GraphQL query through Python SDK. So an example of deleting an entity through execute GraphQL would look something like this. You define DataHub GraphQL and the raw GraphQL query string to delete an entity, and you can pass this query string directly to DataHub Graph. This is very straightforward and will give much more flexibility within Python SDK. So I'm really excited for this. A big shout out to Harshal. Okay. Let's walk through on CRUD on dataset. I'm going to use more than one way of running Python SDK along the way. Please note that this is not the only way and might not be the best practice, and there could be multiple approaches to do the same thing. Okay, prerequisites would be a DataHub instance running on local environment. And if you're unsure how to deploy it, check out our quick start guide. Okay, for creating dataset, I'm going to use MCP. And pretty much all the code snippet that I'm using for this session is already on the docs or GitHub repository. So for example, I'm using like pretty much the same code in docs here. Okay, let's just switch to the IDE here. Okay, so I'm going to use MCP wrapper to create a data set. In MCP wrapper, you can define all the details and configuration for the targeted entity. For example, you can define the platform and the display name and all the fields, like the column descriptions, the data types of the columns, something like that. So let's just run this code and see if that worked. Okay, let's just see. Let's just search the data set test, and you can see the same exact data set has been created by the Python SDK. Okay, so let's read the data set through Python SDK. So in this case, I'm going to use execute GraphQL. So there could be a multiple way of doing this, but I'm going to show you how this can be done really simple. Okay. So all you need to do is define the data graph and the query string, and you can just pass it directly to the graph. Okay. Actually, you can just run this row query in GraphQL, and you can get the all the information of the targeted data set. Okay, let's just run here. And you can see it returns the same exact information on the data set. Okay. And next, we're going to use DataHub REST emitter to add lineage between data sets. So in here, you can define the list of upstreams and downstreams. So I'm going to use, create a lineage between the test data set we just created and fact user deleted. Okay, let's just check. Nothing is here. We don't have any lineages yet. And let's just run this and see how it goes. Yep. It just created the lineage between this test data set and the fact users deleted. Okay. So you can, create lineage via GraphQL and all the other things. There could be multiple approaches to do this. Okay. And let's add tags here, and we'll use a execute GraphQL here again. And there is this mutation called add tags in GraphQL, which you can define list of tags you want to add and the resource URL, which is the targeted data set here. Okay, so let's just run this. And you can see the legacy tag has been attached to the targeted data set. Okay. Lastly, let's just delete the data set we just created. In this case, I'll use datahub.cli. So you can, you have to pass the URL of the target data set, and you can pass whether it should be soft delete or hard delete. And yeah. Okay. So let's just try soft delete first. Okay, a mistake. Okay, if you do soft delete, you cannot search it through data search, but you can actually access the data set through the URL directly. But if you do the hard delete, and then you cannot access the data set by the URL. So that was one of the difference between soft delete and hard delete. Okay, so I think I've covered all the things that I want to cover today, and I hope this helped with using Python SDK, and thank you for listening. Bye.
Awesome. That cat avatar just absolutely kills me. Thanks so much, Hyejin. I know that you are not here, but thank you for that wonderful walkthrough. So we are going to move on to our, excuse me, a sneak peek of our upcoming search and browse experience. So Chris, I will hand it over to you, sir.
All right. Thanks, Maggie. Let me share my screen. Okay, cool. You guys see the slideshow all right?
You're good to go.
All righty. Cool. So hey, everyone. Today I'm going to be showing you some of the up and coming improvements to our search experience. For the first half, I'll be demoing our updated search filters UI. And then the second half, I'm going to be showing a sneak peek as to where we're planning on taking our browse experience. Let's get this rolling. As you all know, here's our current basic search filtering experience. There's definitely some shortcomings to what we offer today. So for example, like once you click on a search filter, it's automatically applied, which can be jarring. There's no way to do an or within a filter type. So for example, right now, I can't say snowflake or looker. It's just one or the other. We can only show you the top 20 search filter options within a filter type, like within platform or whatever. So for example, if you wanted to filter on a glossary term that just isn't in the top 20 glossary terms, you just can't do it. So that's too bad. And on top of that, it's really hard to see what I can even filter by, like what my options are for filtering. Right now, I can only see type, platform, tag. The other options I have to go down. Just not the easiest experience, I'll say. Note that the shortcomings actually are possible with our current advanced filters, but they might not be obvious or the easiest for folks. But with all that in mind, let's hop into a little demo of where our search filters are going. There's still a few things to finish off, I'll say, before we release this, but we're getting real close. Let's hop into this new tab. As you can see, the search results page has gotten a little facelift, where filters are now going to be at the top inside of these drop-down boxes. We have all these same filters that you know and love, just with a fresh tank and some new functionality to hopefully make your search filtering lives even better. If you remember some of the shortcomings that I was just talking about right before, one of them was that you could not apply an OR query within a filter type. Well, I'm here to tell you that you can now. So let's say I want to do Snowflake or BigQuery. I can click Update. That immediately applies these filters. But I can also go back in and say like, oh, shoot, I also want to say or Looker. Snowflake, BigQuery, or Looker, please. And you can see here we have a collection of the different filters, active filters that are already applied. I can remove one right here. I can also, or just remove all of them over here on the right. You can also now search within a filter type. So if I know, for example, that I'm looking for a glossary term called highly secure, but I don't see it within the options, I can also now just search for it. Cool, I can see highly secure here. And then another thing to note too is that we are now providing more context in our glossary terms. So you can see its parent hierarchy, which just makes it easier to know which glossary term you're actually even talking about. Let's apply that. Nice. And then I'll just remove that filter. And then finally, we still support advanced filters as they are today. They're just like remodeled to fit with our new designs. So let me just show you a quick thing just to ensure that that works. Let's search for column description. I'm just going to look for entities that have columns with the word updated in their description. So yeah, as you can see, we can still do advanced filters, all of that good stuff. Let me go back to the slideshow because I am not done yet. So now that you've seen where search filtering is headed, I'm also going to show you a sneak peek of where browse is headed as well. But first, let's talk the state of browse today. Today, browse starts on the home page and walks you through these browse paths where you have to click inside a folder to see what's inside of it. You can also only see 10 folders or entities at a time. as well as also only being able to look inside of one folder at a time. So if you're really not sure of the exact location of the entity that you care about, you can see how it could be pretty tough to actually find it through this current browse experience. There's also no way to incorporate search filters or search queries for entities within browse. You're just clicking through different folders in and out looking for something. Ultimately, it's fine, it can work, but it's not really an ideal experience. All right, where's browse going? Browse is going to a unified search and browse experience, as you can see right here in this mock. So if you're looking for an asset, you'll be able to use the full power of search and browse combined. So instead of walking through groups, one page and one group at a time, you'll now have this new folder structure over here on the left, where you can explore to your heart's content. Search filters and queries are also going to be updating this browse bar as well, creating an actually unified experience between the two. Finally, this new method of browse is also going to be container-based. So instead of browse path aspects that we had before, we're going to be using a new container paths aspect. So for these entities that have actual container entities, their physical containers are going to be how you're going to be able to browse for them. So for example, if I'm looking in Redshift over here, and I'm looking under data sets, you can see in the screenshot, I might be looking underneath this company database, and then there's these different schemas that you can see. You'll be able to click on any of these guys and filter down your search results based on what's inside of them. Entities that don't have physical containers are going to have similar paths as before, but with this much new and improved experience. So these things are still under development, I'll say, but expect more updates in the coming weeks, guys. And I think that's it for me for my part one.
Outstanding. And we will be coming back to Chris in a little while. So for now, so we are really excited about this one. And again, this is related to the roadmap item we had to kind of streamline the browse experience. We've really appreciated all of the amazing feedback that we've gotten from community members along the way. And it's just been instrumental to making sure that we are confident in the designs that we're putting together and kind of rethinking and restructuring that experience. So I'm super excited to get that one out in front of y'all. All right, we are going to head over to Harshal. We're going to talk through some GitHub actions that we have been working on.
Awesome. Let me share my screen. All right. Yeah, so as Maggie said, I'm going to be talking about 2 new GitHub actions that we're building to better integrate DataHub into your existing workflows on GitHub. So the first is, let's talk about change management with DBT. So, you know, one of the big problems that people run into is DBT world lives totally different from, you know, your business analyst world of Looker and Superset and, you know, your other BI tools and everything downstream of it. And so the analytics engineers who are, you know, making tweaks to the DBT models often don't actually know what they're impacting downstream. Now, DataHub already brings that transparency with all of the end-to-end lineage capabilities that we have. But it requires right now that the analytics engineers do this extra step of going into DataHub and looking at that information. So what if we could put that information into context when they're making the changes directly? And so that's what I wanted to demo first. So I'll switch over to this repo. So over here, I have an example change that, you know, I might be making. We have this, like, you know, I have an active customer LTV model, and, you know, I realized maybe that the average purchase amount wasn't a super useful column, and so I'm planning on deprecating it and deleting it. And these sorts of changes happen all the time, whether it's, you know, removing columns or changing the types or changing the definitions. It's important to understand who is using this model downstream. And so as soon as I create this PR, we'll give it a minute to run through CI. And then it will post a comment on the PR with exactly what this impacts. And And so we'll let it run. Now, why is this important? Well, it's important because now the workflow is integrated into the place where analytics engineers already work, right? Like DBT, your source of truth for DBT is already in Git, which means that you want to put this information where those folks are actually looking, so that they don't have to do that extra step. All right, so we'll let this run. I guess if it's going to take a little bit, we'll just pull up an example. So in this example, we made a change where we renamed a column from breed to pet breed. And we can see here that it posted an impact analysis where it said one DBT model changed. That impacts 110 downstreams, mostly in Looker. And there's all these different charts and dashboards that rely on this table. And so maybe based on this information, I should say, okay, actually it doesn't make sense to rename this column, or I should alias it and duplicate the column first and then slowly deprecate it over time, or handle the change more effectively. Whereas in that original PR with that other table, we can see only one thing depends on active customer LTV. And so we can just take a look at this definition, figure out if it is safe to change, or just change this thing in lockstep. All right. Now the other piece of the puzzle that I wanted to talk about today is business glossary. And so this is once again about change management and kind of embracing the ideology of shift left. And what is shift left? It's all about moving the metadata annotations and all of this other information about your data assets to live alongside your data assets. And often the definitions for those things live in Git. And so Git is the place to put that metadata as well. And the benefit of shift left is that governance is no longer something that is like an afterthought. It kind of is embedded alongside the remainder of your processes around data. And this way you can have, so to that end, we built DataHub already has a business glossary, which basically serves as a central data vocabulary for all of your terms and definitions that are, sometimes very specific to your organization and actually require quite a bit of discussion around the changes of them. If you've had these complex networks of docs and spreadsheets which define what exactly an active customer is and what exactly revenue means and what exactly does churn define, how exactly does your company define churn? Business glossary kind of handles those concerns. Now, a lot of folks want to define the business glossary in Git because that way they can put it in version control. It lives alongside their data assets. They can have more deep discussions about what is happening, what changes they're making, what changes you're making to the business glossary, and so forth. And so we have a YAML format for defining the business glossary, which then can be ingested into DataHub. The issue is, as soon as you do that, if then you make changes in the UI, the file and the UI will get out of sync. And so often, whenever you do a YAML-based business glossary, you have to disallow edits to the glossary through the UI, which produces like a subpar experience. So that's why we're introducing a GitHub action that enables bidirectional sync for the business glossary. And what does that look like? So let's pop over to this one. So in this example, I have a business glossary defined in my demo repo called glossary.yaml. And I also have this loaded up into DataHub. And, let's say I want to make some modifications. So I want to add a term to this classification called PII. And we can apply some descriptions. And then we can create that. And then maybe I also want to say the sensitive tag inherits from PII. Great. So now my glossary file is out of sync, right? It doesn't reflect the edits that I've made through the UI. And so what I can do is I can pop over to the Actions tab here, and I can run this workflow. Now, normally what you would do is you wouldn't manually trigger this workflow. You would instead have it kind of run daily or something like that. And that way, you can continuously integrate changes from your glossary into, or from the DataHub UI into your glossary. And then you would also have something where every time a commit is merged to this repo, you automatically sync the glossary back into DataHub. And that way, these two things will never get out of sync. All right. And so, this thing is running. And then it'll take a little bit. So we'll wait. All right. And so now it created a PR titled Update Business Glossary. And if we pop over here, we can see the new PII tag was added to our glossary file. And then in the sensitive data term, it now inherits from classification.pii, which was where we had it here, classification PII. And that way, these two files will never get out of sync. All right. So if you are itching to use this, the DBT impact analysis action is available to all Acryl customers already. The bidirectional glossary sync action will be released soon. And we'll also have some more improvements planned for this. So for example, on the DBT impact analysis, bringing in more context. So what are the terms and ownership associated with all of the downstream assets that were changed? Potentially also opening PRs so that you can synchronize those DBT schema YAML files with the changes that happen in DataHub, and then maybe expanding beyond just DBT in the glossary into things like, say, LookML. So exciting stuff. As always, please let me know if you have any feedback on this stuff. I'd love to hear it. That's all for me.
Amazing. Thank you, Harshal. Lots of love in chat. Definitely worth taking a peek there. Let's keep moving forward. Chris, I'm going to hand it back over to you and Shirshanka to talk through our upcoming support for data products in DataHub.
Awesome. So Chris, maybe I'll share my screen and then hand it over to you for the demo.
Perfect.
All right, let's do it. Cool. Well, today is a big day because we're finally talking data products beyond the talking. If you're part of the data community, you know that there are only two kinds of people. People who believe in data mesh in the sense that it's coming, and people who believe in data mesh in the sense that it's already done. We've just been doing data mesh all this time. But regardless of whichever camp you're in, I think the whole data world does agree that data should be managed like a product. And we are all definitely aligning towards talking about data as a product. And so we, for a while, have actually had a channel called design data product entity. And it was really around bringing together the community in giving us input into how they think about data products and how they would like DataHub to actually represent data products. And we had quite a bit of participation from the community. People have shared big ideas, what they would like to see. There's even small PRs that were opened, big academic papers that have been written, an RFC that I created combining all of the input we got from the community. Max wrote a large blog post and also a big image for how he thinks data products should be modeled. And Dhruv recently described a very concrete use case, sharing of data across data products. So we've gotten a ton of feedback from the community, and that's what makes this community special, because we are allowing you all to kind of help us understand and make sense of some of these slightly vague concepts. So with all of the input that we've received, we had a few ideas for modeling data products that actually came from the community as well. Max built this. It's super complex if you look at all of the things that people care about. Too many things. And we were a little bit nervous about putting all of these complex things into the data product entity from the get-go and then maybe getting it wrong. And so in the spirit of modeling only what is necessary and leaving further iterations to kind of the next version of the data product entity, we've taken a more MVP approach to this model, and I'll kind of describe what that looks like. So you're probably all familiar with the raw technical metadata graph, right? There are streams and tables and pipelines, and they process stuff and produce tables, and some of these tables go up into dashboards. And what we really want to help you do as you think about a data product is draw a nice boundary around some of these things and say, you know what? All of these things are really the revenue data product. These pipelines that my team works on, these tables that they produce, and this dashboard that's getting exported, that's my data product. It's called the revenue data product. With this nice little label that you have, a boundary that you've drawn across things that you manage and want to share with other teams, you can attach ownership, tags, glossary terms, and write documentation to your heart's content. And in the future, and this is kind of coming, we think, in the next iteration, start to share some of these concepts across with other teams. So you can mark certain things within a data product as being internal, other things as being shareable. And that then allows other downstream teams to start depending on some of these outputs from your data product in their definition of their data product. So hopefully this gives you a sense of how we're thinking about it, how your input is driving how we're thinking about it, and where the model is going. But that's not all. We want to bring in all of the shift left and shift right and shift back left principles into data product definition lifecycles, because we've heard repeatedly from the community that you want to manage data products definitions just like you manage everything else, like code. And so we think that the business user and the developer can be brought together through essentially the ability to define data products as YAML, being able to check those into Git, having those get synced up with DataHub. The business user can collaborate and refine the definition of the data product, and those changes can then flow back right where they started, so that we no longer have to have these two worlds live so far from each other. So that's where we're going, and we'll do a quick demo today to describe what we've got coming.
Nice.
With that, I'll let Chris take over.
All right. Let me share the right desktop. Cool. Okay. Hey, everyone again. I'll be showing you what we put together to make data products a reality. And in the context of doing that, I'm going to be walking through an example of how someone might actually want to use data products. So in this scenario, let's say I work with the marketing team at our favorite pet adoption agency, Longtail Companions. Let's also say that we're working on a new campaign with our friends at ASPCA to showcase a new pet of the week every week. This campaign involves using a specific dashboard called Adoption Report, which you can see here. We want to be able to organize this dashboard and all of its key upstreams into a new data product, so we can keep track of everything related to this campaign all in one place. So let's take a look at this lineage graph to figure out what other entities we might want to put into this theoretical data product that we still have to create. So you can see upstream, we have some charts, we have an explore. And in this scenario, let's just say I want to map all these guys into one data product to make sure we can keep track of them together. So I'm going to go back. So in order to do that, first, we have to create a data product. So right now, data products live in the context of a domain. So in order to do that from the UI specifically, you need to go to the domain page and create it from there, or you can manage it as code, which Shirshanka will talk more about as well. So once you go to the marketing domain or any domain, we're going to have a new data products tab, as you can see here. And in this data products tab, we're going to show you a list of all the current data products that you have. In here, you can do all of your basic CRUD operations. So you can edit data products from this tab, you can delete them, and you can do what we want to do right now, which is create a new one. So for this, I'm going to create a data product called Pet of the Week campaign, week campaign. You can also add description right here, and I have a handy dandy template that I'm going to be using for this specific one. And then we can create it. Cool. We now have a new data product called Pet of the Week campaign. And let's go to it and start adding some assets to it. So first, you can see data products also have their own profile page, just like other entities, and we can add assets bulk right here. So first, we're going to add adoption report, which is that dashboard that we originally started on in this demo. We're just going to add that guy. And then after we add it, you can see that we have another tab over here called assets, which we can go to, and you can see adoption report was added to our Pet of the Week campaign data product. And then now something really neat that we're going to do here is we can go to this adoption report page and we can go to its lineage tab. And from here, we can add all of its lineage that we care about into our data product using our bulk edit actions. So I can click edit, and here I'm just doing all the first and second degree upstreams specifically. And let me just select all of them right now. And I can set the data product, and the data product that I care about is called Pet of the Week campaign. And we can add it. All right, so now we can go back. You can also see that on the profile page, we have a new section on the sidebar called data product. And you can see that this dashboard is in the Pet of the Week campaign data product. If we go to its profile page and look at its asset list, you can see all of the entities that we just added as well. Cool, so now that we have all of the entities that we care about in our data product, we can now take the time to add owners, you can add tags, you can add glossary terms, do everything that you need to do to make sure that this is organized and managed properly. A few other things that I wanted to show you guys really quick is that you can also filter off of data products. So for example, if I want to see everything that was in that Pet of the Week campaign data product, you can filter there. You can also search for data products as top level entity. So that one was called Pet of the Week campaign. Good thing I misspelled it, so that's why it's not showing up. There we go. Pet of the Week campaign. And from here, you can just go to its profile page, check everything out as per usual. All right, I think that's it for my little demo. Back to you, Shirshanka.
Awesome, Chris. And just a reminder, you can also create views that only include data products. So if you want people to not get annoyed by all of the tables and the dashboards and all of the technical stuff and only want to stay in the data product space, just create a view called just data products and then roll it out to your whole organization. All right, and back to me, we are going to look at the developer experience for data products. Quick reminder, we want developers to stay in Git if that's what they love. So I'm back in the UI and the marketing domain is looking kind of empty. There's no data products in there. And so we're going to go over into our trusty YAML editor. And I've essentially written a handwritten definition of a data product, very similar, gave it an ID, a domain, display name, description, and added a few assets by just copying the earns from the DataHub UI. And now I'm just gonna use the new data product command to upsert it up into my DataHub instance. And when I hit refresh, it's there. So inserts work, which is great. I can go look at the campaign, but now I'm wearing my business user hat. I don't have a top hat. If I had, I would definitely wear it. But maybe the business user says, hey, this is good for a start, but only be used for external reporting. And I want to save this in. Perhaps I want to be so brave as to add an owner. Yes. All right. And now back in the terminal. Now imagine there's a GitHub action that runs just like what Harshal described that executes a diff. So data product diff against this file. Aha, an update is needed and looks like we've actually applied the diff already. Update. All right. Let's look at what that diff looks like. Whoa. Clearly, the description got added. Looks like there's some bugs in assets, but the owners got added. So work in progress, but what we expect to happen is all of the deltas that you make in the UI are going to be implemented back in to the YAML. And that way you can, again, keep your YAML definitions in sync with the changes that are happening in the UI.
We gotta love a live demo.
Always. Back to you, Maggie. In terms of roadmap and where this is landing, we're planning to open the PR, I think early next week, right, Chris?
That's the plan. Yeah, next week sometime.
So it's data products are going to be a top level entity, and you'll be able to work with them very soon. And as I said, the next iteration, it's really a way for us to get more feedback, something for you to react to. Tell us where you want this to go next. We have heard from you about being able to distinguish between internal data assets versus external and allowing that kind of sharing to get implemented across teams. But give us more feedback on what else you want to see. And that's it from the data products bench.
From the data products bench. I love that. All right, folks, we are at time. We do not have time to go over some of the recent docs updates to the doc site. That being said, I have asked Harshal to record, basically record what he was going to share here. So as soon as we get the recording of this session loaded to YouTube, I will be sure to include Harshal's recording of that content. We'll also post it in announcements to make sure that you all get it. Spoiler alert, the doc site now has an AI chatbot that can help you find stuff like silly easily. I'm geeking out over it. It also has
Maggie,
a
I would say
little,
just do
icon.
that. Just show it. It's
Sure,
2 seconds.
why not? Let's do it.
Yeah, just do it.
All right, okay, you convinced me. So for those of you who have never seen our doc site, welcome. Here it is. So anywhere on the datahubproject.io website, you will see this new little chat icon over here. So you can be on the homepage or within the doc site. It's going to be the same. This will pop up. Maybe I want to. How do I add lineage? It's going to scour our docs, spit out a response. So what it's telling me here is how we can add lineage through the UI with some summaries. There we go, almost there. What's really nice is it will link you out to what it references. It'll also show you kind of a summary of how it generated those. Maybe I actually want to manage lineage via API and not from the UI. We can update that. Oh, interesting. This is giving us a different response than before. Okay, so it's saying you can add it via GraphQL. Perfect. So yeah, this is super experimental, but again, isn't this the cutest little chatbot in the world? What? Like, why do I want to hang out with this guy? It's a little weird. But yeah, this is super experimental. Give us some feedback on how it goes. We'll see how accurate it can be. We'll hopefully be like tweaking it and tuning it as we go. But yeah, love that guy. We should name it, right? We should ask ChatGPT to name the bot. Anyway, that's it for this round. There are a bunch of additional changes to the doc site, or just enhancements to the doc site. So we will have Harshal record a summary of those. And I think that wraps it up for this round. Happy April. Thank you all for your time and your attention. This is always the highlight of my month. It makes me really happy to bring everybody together. And we appreciate you all so much. We'll stick around for a couple minutes if there's any other questions live. But also, if you have suggestions for a name for the chatbot, we will also take those. There's got to be a good one. But anyway, yeah, enjoy your afternoon. Happy April. We'll see y'all next month. And we'll stick around if anybody has questions. Thanks, Ben.
I see our man Josh up in here. Hey, Josh.
Hi, Josh. Josh
Hey,
and his
Josh.
otter.
Nice to see y'all.
We're excited.
All right, buddies. I think we'll call it. Appreciate you. We'll see you in Slack. Adios.
Thanks, Maggie.
Thanks,
Bye.
Maggie.